Russia has turned into a minefield. The invasion of Ukraine has cost Russia dearly. Russia, which is constantly experiencing explosions, has turned into a place of fire. Russian fire brigades are struggling to control the fires. What is happening in Russia, which is experiencing the most difficult days of its history? Faced with many explosions, different claims are put forward for the explosions in Russia. Why do you think these explosions are happening? Let's examine them together. The Russian army was planning to wage the Ukraine-Russia war on Ukraine's territory. Putin did not want the war to spread to his territory, because this could have been a risk for Putin, who wanted to save his political reputation. But the situation did not turn out the way Russia wanted. Sounds of explosions are coming from all over Russia, and Putin is unable to resist all these explosions. Today, another fire broke out in a major shopping center in Russia. 3 days ago, there was a fire in another big shopping center in Moscow. These back-to-back fires are worrying all Russian people. People want an end to this situation. Emergency services in Moscow are taking care of those injured in the fires and explosions. On the other hand, another fire broke out in a building in the town of Balashikha today. After the fire, the roof of the story-tracked shopping center collapsed. This has increased security measures in many other shopping centers. All shopping centers are protected by high-level security measures. On the other hand, the cause of these fires in shopping centers is unknown. But the fires start during the hours when the shopping centers are closed. This is quite surprising, because civilians are not harmed by the fire. It is the shopping centers that suffer. Of course, the Russian economy also suffers. The Russian people are in great panic because of these fires. The number of people going to the shopping center in Russia is decreasing day by day. The Russian economy is experiencing the worst days in its history. The Russian ruble is losing value day by day. As New Year's Eve approaches, many squares in Russia are decorated with Christmas trees. However, many streets were closed. Many big shops closed their shutters. Because the war has caused great damage to the Russian economy, and many businesses have gone bankrupt. With bigger and bigger fires every day, Russia is bringing more and more companies to bankruptcy. The Russian economy is falling rapidly day by day. These explosions in Russia did not only occur in shopping malls. In the past days, there were explosions at 2 military bases belonging to the Russian army. One of them was the airport where Russian airplanes were maintained. Many fighter jets of the Russian army were damaged. The other explosion occurred at a fuel tanker near the military base. The Russian fire brigade had a hard time putting out the fires. The fires could not be extinguished for hours. On the other hand, big explosions are also taking place in the regions occupied by Russia. The biggest of these was the explosion of the governor of Kherson region. The governor of the region was injured in a car explosion in Kherson in southern Ukraine. The regional governor, Vitaly Bulyuk, was seriously injured in this explosion. The driver of the car was killed. Many Russian bureaucrats in these regions are frightened by the attacks. Attacks on Russian bureaucrats are increasing. Russia pays double salaries to bureaucrats working in this region, but despite this, no Russian bureaucrat wants to work here. Working in this region could mean giving up their lives. On the other hand, Russian bureaucrats are aware that these regions will be liberated by Ukraine. In that case, no one thinks that Russia will win the war. No one wants to take sides in a losing war. The Ukrainian army is doing its best to liberate the territories occupied by Russia. Successful operations are being conducted in the region. The latest of these operations took place today in Melitopol. There were many Russian soldiers in Melitopol. The Ukrainian army organized a major attack on the Russian military bases here. The Russian army, which suffered great losses in the last 24 hours, suffered one of the biggest losses in its history. Russia, which lost over 500 soldiers, became desperate. The Russian army suffered heavy losses in the attack organized with HIMARS. The Ukrainian army carried out a major operation in the Russian bases in Melitopol thanks to the HIMARS. Many Russian bases were destroyed. HIMARS became an important tool in changing the course of the war. The HIMARS sent by the United States to the Ukrainian army were of great use in the Ukraine-Russia war. These war tools, which have a great power of destruction, play an important role in the course of the war. HIMARS combat vehicles can fire 6 missiles simultaneously. These missiles travel up to 80 kilometers. This range covers a very large area. Such a large range of HIMARS puts the Russian army in a very difficult situation. On the other hand, HIMARS can change location very quickly after launching a missile. It is very difficult for the Russian army to destroy HIMARS, which can maneuver quickly. For this reason, Ukraine is conducting major operations against Russia with HIMARS. Russia, which is heavily damaged, cannot do anything about it. HIMARS have a great impact power. These large combat vehicles have a very high hit rate. With such a powerful fighting tool, Ukraine gains an incredible advantage over Russia. The tide of the war is changing thanks to HIMARS. But HIMARS are not enough for the explosions in Russia, because the range of these war tools is 80 kilometers. How the burning Russian tanker burned is still a matter of curiosity. Russian authorities continue to investigate this situation. On the other hand, the Russian press claims that this explosion was caused by Ukrainian drones. The drones used by Ukraine against Russia are called Bayraktar. Bayraktar drones, which can fly at very high altitudes, cannot be tracked by Russian radars. The drones, which can overcome Russian air defenses, have great operational capability. It is claimed that critical attacks in Russia may have been carried out by these drones. However, Ukraine does not accept these attacks. Many Ukrainian bureaucrats state that the attacks did not take place. The Ukrainian military also does not claim responsibility for these attacks. So, where are these attacks originating from? Russia is not making a statement about the attacks. Russian officials state that investigations into the attack are ongoing. The reason for not making a statement yet is quite simple. The political reputation of the Putin administration is falling day by day. Putin, who does not want to lose face, wants to prevent a major crisis. If it is understood that the Ukrainian army is operating inside Russia, this could cause a major crisis in Russia. Putin, whose influence is diminishing day by day, does not want such a situation. This could go down in history as an intelligence failure. The Russian government wants to hide this. It does not want it to be known that it has suffered heavy blows against Ukraine. But all these efforts are futile. Russia continues to take heavy blows against Ukraine. With explosions every day, Russia is certain to lose this war. Claiming to have one of the most powerful armies in the world, Russia was threatening the whole world. However, with the resistance of the Ukrainian army, it became clear that Russia was not that strong. Ukraine is actually facing a very weak Russia. This has had a huge impact on Russia and other states. Thanks to Ukraine's victories, the whole world now knows that Russia is not strong. No country in the world is afraid of Russia anymore. The whole world is facing a weak Russia. On the other hand, the balance of power in the world has changed as the true strength of the Russian army has been revealed. Russia is losing important allies. China, Russia's biggest and most important ally, has left Russia alone by not supporting Russia in the war. A Chinese company has cancelled a deal to send military computer chips to the Russian army. The Ukraine-Russia war has driven a wedge between China and Russia. China wants to become the new leader of the Eastern countries after Russia. With the war in Ukraine, the rivalry between Russia and China is growing. Russia, which was established after the collapse of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, has been considered the most powerful and largest state in the Eastern countries since the Cold War. However, Russia's big blow against Ukraine has changed this. Russia's collapse is only a matter of time. It is known that NATO is preparing for a possible collapse of Russia. In such a case, NATO could confiscate Russia's nuclear weapons. The whole world wants to reduce nuclear weapons. The confiscation of nuclear weapons in Russia could be a turning point for the whole world. The collapse of Russia could be a new beginning that would change the global powers. The historic resistance of the Ukrainian army could be one of the most important turning points in the world. Ukraine is doing everything it can to win this war. Many war experts say that Ukraine will carry out a major operation when the winter is over. The whole fate of the war may depend on this operation. This operation could end the war and lead to the collapse of Russia. The Ukrainian army plans to completely liberate the territories occupied by Russia. In 2014, Crimea, which faced Russia's occupation in 2014, is one of these territories. The Ukrainian army managed to get closer to Crimea after liberating the Kherson region. Russia fears that Ukraine, which has blown up many Russian bases, will launch attacks in this region. For this reason, it has taken many measures. Russia has dug many pits and trenches close to Crimea to prevent HIMARS from approaching Crimea. What happens in Crimea could change the fate of the whole war. If the Ukrainian army manages to liberate Crimea, Russia will suffer a major defeat. This will change the fate of Putin and Russia. Many war experts speak of Crimea as the place where the knot of the war will be untied. Crimea will decide the fate of everything. What do you think about the fires in Russia? What do you think is the source of the fires on Russian territory? Do you think Russia can win this war? What do you think will happen in the future of Crimea? How will China's ambitions take shape? Share your views with us.